Good afternoon, Tony, and hi, John.
Hey, Chris.
So it's 3-4 minutes before. We've got a couple of guests here with us already, Alan and Sarah. You're early. Very good. Let me just share my slides. Okay. John, Tony, would you mind confirming that you can see the slides now?
Yes, but it's not fully. Just a sec.
That's interesting. I've got the PDF here as well in case we need it.
Could you share screen again, please? Can
I'm sorry?
Can you please share screen again? Present the slides, please.
Yep. How's that?
Good.
Perfect. I think we'll have another minute and then we kick it off. I think people are coming in already. So we'll start it off in a minute. But you can hear me and see me all right?
Yes. Well, I can hear you. Can I see you? No.
Interesting.
Are you comm support?
I hope. I don't think so.
Chris, can you rename yourself? Please.
Can I rename myself? No. But I did find the reason why I am not showing my face. How's that?
Okay, there you are.
Yes.
Here we go. There, renamed myself. Happy now?
Thank you.
Good. Okay, how are we doing time-wise? We are spot on, right? Okay, let's give one more minute, everybody, before we kick this off. People are coming in right now. And then we can start it in a bit. Sonja, how are you today?
Better, yeah.
Yeah, quite a shock, huh?
Yes, I didn't sleep for like 3 days.
I know. But you may want to, since it's already public, you may want to calm people down to tell them the reason why, if you want to share that.
I'm from Jamaica, and we recently had a Category 5 hurricane named Melissa. It caused quite a bit of devastation, is the correct word, quite a bit of devastation on the western side of the island.
Horrible.
Yeah, so we're in the process of rebuilding everything. Yeah, it's going to take some time. It seems like we get hurricanes every year now, which is crazy.
It's crazy, huh? When you grew up in Jamaica, how frequent were they? I mean, we know the stats from the UNFCCC, but it's quite something different to hear it from.
Yeah, so we usually would have maybe like a tropical storm here and there, maybe like a Category 1 hurricane passing close by. The first hurricane I experienced was Ivan in 2004, which did not make landfall, but it caused a lot of destruction nonetheless.
Right.
And I would say since maybe 2016, 2017, it seems it's been happening annually. So almost a decade, yeah.
One of our corporate partnerships, incidentally, has just called me to tell them that they're providing additional logistics support to Jamaica on this one. But so I'm very glad that your family is okay, Tony, and thank you very much for being here. in these difficult scenarios. And I want to welcome everybody to this webinar. I haven't done one in a while, actually. So I'm looking forward to this one. I've been hovering around New York and Toronto and Nairobi for conferences all this time. So this is really good. Lovely to see so many familiar names in the guest list here. A couple of the usual housekeeping. We are recording this session. Please also bear in mind that the sessions really lives and falls off your questions and of your thoughts. We really want to get through the slides as quickly as possible, because by their very design, they are obviously somewhat generic, and we want to get into the specifics as soon as we possibly can. Finally, I believe my wonderful comms team, all ahead of everyone, is John will share the slides in a follow-up email, usually a day or two later, so you don't need to take frantic notes. And I think that's it. Did I forget any housekeeping issue? I haven't done this in a while.
I don't think so. I think that's everything. Oh, no, they should put their questions in the Q&A function,
Thank you.
the Q&A
Yes.
button.
Yes.
Yes.
Please do.
Not in the chat, please.
That would be good. And I'm opening the Q&A window right now so that I do not forget about questions. And questions we do not get around to in the 45 minutes we have here today. We will email you with what we think, which may or may not amount to an answer. Right, quick introductions. Since I'm talking, I'll just continue doing so, and then it's over for the first part to you anyway, Tony. My name is Chris. I'm the founder and managing director of MZN International. These days, I've been doing this for a long time, since 2011 right now. I'm getting old. These days, I spend most of my time with either restructuring and changing NGOs to build a new business model, which in turn includes donor alignment, investor alignment, building blended finance schemes. And as part of that, it includes corporate partnerships, which I'm really looking forward to talk about today. My ambition here today is to get off the slides as soon as we can into the real conversation. And I know that my wonderful long-term colleague, Tony Ann, is sharing that ambition with me. And Tony Ann, despite the lack of sleep, do you feel able to introduce yourself?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
So hello, everybody. I'm Tony Ann. I am a manager at MZN International, and my tasks are very varied these days. I would just like to share before we jump into today's webinar that between myself and Chris, I'm the colleague who has had to learn especially since the summer, about this whole new landscape that we're finding ourselves in. So I will be providing that context for our attendees today. So I hope you find the webinar relevant and useful, and yeah, looking forward to jumping right into it.
Great. And without much ado, Tony, let's do it. Shall I do it quickly? Well, you do. You take us in and let me know where you want me to take over, Tony Ann.
So I would start at the introduction, or should I go at...
Oh, fine. Yeah, let's
Okay.
take some time. Everybody knows who we are anyway.
Yes. Yeah, so building on from what I just said about me being the newbie, so to speak, in the innovative finance space, I just like to set the tone further a bit for the session. So on this slide, you will see a sentence saying partnerships between NGOs and businesses are no longer acts of charity. So when we say businesses, I would like that definition to include some relatively new stakeholders that you would see now in this new fundraising space. So that would include things such as corporations, maybe investors, private investors, impact investors, etc. But I would also like to add to that definition some stakeholders who we would be somewhat familiar with, but maybe now they have new expectations or new requirements for our potential working partnerships. So that would include things such as foundations, maybe social impact businesses, maybe even institutional donors to some extent. So just to set the stage for you to say, when we say businesses, corporations, those are all the stakeholders that we're including. So the new era of collaboration. So I won't belabor the fact that since February, we've been basically rapidly navigating a new fundraising space where things seem to be very different, very foreign. And we've had to change a lot how we go about doing our day-to-day jobs. That being said, I would like to take this time to just centralize a theme that I think has sat with me since I started learning about the impact finance space, innovation finance, etc., is that a lot of what we've already been doing as NGOs, that factors a lot into many of the procedural steps within innovative finance. So I'll get back to that in a little bit, but just to say now that with these new stakeholders, we have to change how we go about making our ask. So previously it would be, okay, we have a great project, it's amazing, we need money, can you give it to us? Now it have to be along the lines of understanding what your expertise and assets are, and NGOs have quite a bit, and then kind of building a collaborative, equal-footed relationship with these new stakeholders. So now we move from intention to implementation. On the next slide, please.
I mean, I just want to say, I completely agree with you. Do you also find that some NGOs are just way too humble about
Yes.
it? It's almost like the complexity of the problem they like to address humbles the capacity that they have. In presentation, at least, not only in presentation, no?
Yes, yes. So at this stage, your work will not speak for itself. You have to signal within that work what makes you that partner who is best suited to collaborate with this particular stakeholder to achieve a mutual goal, if you get what I'm saying.
And also, I'd like to add on, and if you don't mind, I think
Yes.
I'm interrupting your flow here.
No problem.
I'd like to add that we are not, when we talk to investors who have several businesses and they say we want you to partner with us, or if we talk directly to a corporate, as you say, Tonian, then this is a subset of their activities.
Yeah.
They are busy and stressed and intensely all busy to work on their operations, on their business, be it a big corporate or an owner-managed business. It doesn't really matter. And that is different than speaking to a donor whose work it is to push the money out. And
Right.
therefore, on average, donors have more time to engage with the intricacies, and they can do 3, 4 rounds of proposals and another briefing. But businesses just tend not to have that time. I've seen a 17 million euro decision being made on the back of a 4-page presentation earlier this week. You know, so then that is not uncommon.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. Yeah, so before we get into this step one, I would add a preliminary step then, building on my last point about identifying your strengths and your assets in this potential partnership with the stakeholders we listed before. So as you can see from the slide, there is an overwhelming amount of interest from these stakeholders, whether it's investors, corporations, foundations, or institutional donors who are doing things a little bit differently now. There is an overwhelming level of interest to have these partnerships that are not 100% built on grant financing. So with this interest, and I sense that there's some trepidation from the NGO sector about how to navigate this space, to pinpoint that you have several assets, several capabilities that give you this level of complementarity in particular partnerships. So one of the things that these stakeholders are looking for is scale and efficiency in getting things done, achieving objectives, whatever the case may be. but they lack the assets that you have. And what are these assets? These assets are things such as the underground data that you have that has been accumulated for 5+ years, the deep community expertise and the local trust that you have with select groups, with select communities that could make or break a potential project or implementation activity. So you have to approach the partnership knowing that you have these assets, knowing that they are extremely important, and understanding that moving forward, it's about being as complementary as possible. So building on your assets, engaging with the assets of the stakeholder that we mentioned before, and trying to move as efficiently as possible. That being said, even though you do have the assets that these stakeholders are looking for, you have to kind of understand their central, what do I call it now, themes or defining factors, things that they interact with many or most of the day. So on the slide there, you would see that we made a list of some of those, such as profit, reputation, risk reduction, innovation, etc. So these differ across the stakeholders, and within this difference, there is a prioritization of what each means to the stakeholder. So you have to do a level of research and have an in-depth understanding of what the stakeholder values, what they would like in partnerships, maybe what they've done previously, if there are any gaps in their implementation that you could cover. So this then is another thing that we've already been doing. It's just that now we have to do it by contextually looking at, what makes this particular stakeholder do what they do.
And obviously they don't issue an RFP where they tell us, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Next slide.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
There we are.
Thank you. So when it comes to identifying shared value opportunities, we touched on this a bit before. It's about looking at where social needs and business goals intersect. So you have to frame your work or what you plan to offer as contributing to the strategic goals, priorities of the particular stakeholder.
Yeah.
So we have a statistic here that companies that align CSR with their business goals see a 20% increase in long-term engagement. So you have to kind of see, as I mentioned before, where you can get into fitting, for lack of a better term. Looking at the stakeholder, what their focus is on, what they've done already, what their reports are saying, if there are any gaps, etc. And then you can position yourself to make a sound pitch.
And I would add here that they know that.
Yes.
They often approach us after all saying, we do need an NGO who strengthen our supply chain, or we need to, we are sick and tired with our donation scheme that we haven't had that we've had for 20 years and it hasn't really moved the needle. So we need to move towards a more efficient way. Or they say we need to make we're losing our social license because we have a difficult product, but we also do so much more and they don't see that, etc. So they do come with a problem.
Yep. So they know that the expertise is in the sector, they just don't know how to find it. So it's all about trying to meet at that middle ground. And that would take some search and assessments on your part.
Yeah.
Okay, so once the common ground is clear, how do we open the conversation?
May I just add to this particular point, Tony? If there's anybody listening here who has a specific defined value proposition towards a for-profit entity, feel free to share this. Tony and my colleagues around the world, and our colleagues at Human Planet, our private sector entity, after all, since earlier this year, which we acquired, we do get, I would say, 3 to 4 calls a week from a corporate, not daily, but definitely more than weekly, about saying, we have this problem, which is that something an NGO could fix. Tony, I'm sorry, I'm just getting a comment here from Matthew saying it's difficult to see the slides.
Is it because
am I transposed to it? Okay, I'll try to fix that whilst you move on to the next one.
Yes, no problem.
It's fixed.
Yes, thank you. So when it comes to step 3, before we jump into this matter of speaking the same language, I would like to go back a bit to what I said at the top of the webinar about many components within innovative finance, impact finance, catalytic finance, that we've already been doing as NGOs. So when you would see opportunities or reports that include things such as impact measurement, return on investment, key performance indicators, etc., it's mostly referring to monitoring and evaluation. And as NGOs, we are the masters of M&E, I think. We've been doing tracking inputs, impact, outputs, outcomes, drafting reports, etc., for many, many decades. So the only change that would obtain here is that we would kind of reconfigure the language to make the business, corporation, investor also be able to understand what we're saying. So it has to kind of be set in a way where they're familiar with the language. So for example, here on the slide, we have something that says, we need funds for water access, or we've helped 500 women to access employment at the Center of Excellence. Just a very general example. You would reformat that to say, 1, we can reduce health-related absenteeism in your workforce communities, or we have provided a verifiable skilled workforce for your local supply chain. So it's just tweaking the language a bit, but the fundamentals, the foundation on which a lot of the M&E in innovative finance is built on, we are very, very familiar with that.
Absolutely.
Another thing I want to bring to your attention that we're already familiar with as NGOs is when it comes to things such as outcome-based financing, impact bonds, etc. We have been interacting, being part of performance-based contracts, grants, milestone reporting, etc. So it's the same exact principle where funds are disbursed based on the achievement of a particular target or milestone. So it's just worded differently, I would say, in most cases, but it's inevitably the same. And another thing I would like to add is that the procedural steps in beginning many innovative finance projects is composed of things that we've already been doing. So you do your desk research, you would do some data collection, you would do some analysis of the data you've collected.
Yeah,
and it differs after that point, but the foundation on which starting an innovative financed project is the same. So I just wanted to bring these examples to your attention so it doesn't seem so daunting to jump headfirst into this new landscape that we've been hearing about, seeing for quite some time now. And just to make things a little bit easier for you to ease into things. So speaking the same language, knowing that you have components that you're already familiar with that you can introduce or use to bridge the gap between yourself and these new innovative finance stakeholders is very, very important. You would just need to tweak a few things, learn some new things as well to make sure everything is clear. And then we have another statistic there that NGOs that use business-aligned language are 35% more likely to secure repeat partnerships. And this is because everybody understands everybody in the dynamic. So once communication is established, what makes your proposal stand out? And that's over to you, Chris.
Cool. So you've taken us to the point right now, Tony, and where you have sort of opened up a line of communication. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at some point, pretty quickly, within the first hour of a physical meeting or remote meeting, you get to the point where you need to you get to the how question. So how do you want to do this? And the worst thing you can do is ask them for a check. You know, that's the end of the conversation. Oh, here we go, another donation seed drive. And there are literally hundreds of different ways of designing a partnership with any sort of for-profit entity, any parts of it. And I'm just highlighting they fall sort of into various categories, and 3 of them I just like to highlight here. There are these co-branded initiatives which is sort of a brand visibility and outward-facing collaboration. Patagonia does that a lot, for example. Where the problem that Patagonia has, or the alignment Patagonia has deeply sit in itself, for example, is that they are very motivated about nature preservation and etc., but they also want to really communicate that. So you will probably end up spending a lot of time with the marketing and the comms department because it's about joint brand visibility. Then there's an impact-linked financing mechanism. That's totally different. Here they want to achieve a social outcome. So say they want to really increase financial inclusion, for example. Banks have a vested interest in increasing financial inclusion, particularly unbanked, but they need to do so differently. They can't just put up marketing ties around things. So they want to have they create a structure in which, what you said, Tony, your measurable outcomes, your tangible milestones reward the charity partners financially and with ongoing contracts in achieving a social goal. So that's a bit like an outcome-based finance mechanism. And then we see more and more of these joint social innovation labs. Again, this is where the business need and the philanthropic and the non-business motivation are sort of at an equalish level between them, and they both want to grow together. They may want to prototype and new scale and new innovation. We see that a lot in conflict and crisis countries. Right now, we're working, for example, on social innovation labs in Ukraine and in Sudan, in many other areas, even areas where we have a lot of Gen Z demonstrations like Nepal right now, or where there's chronic underperformance of health sector in certain West African territories right now. And here we partner with corporates to design a joint solution, sometimes including a donor, or a large foundation. But less and less so. They're less and less initiating those. So these would be 3 ways of structuring the partnership. And then at some point, you get to the point where, okay, that sounds good. We've settled on 1 or 2 different types of partnerships. We need to build a governance and a measurement framework. And here, I think, Tony, and what you said, NGOs, we're already experts at that, right? Here's where things become very familiar. We need to be co-managed. We need to clarify roles, metrics, and accountability systems, set out, quarterly, half-yearly, monthly, even if necessary, review meetings, in order to get from input towards, outcomes and shared KPIs, which I'm not going to spend some time teaching you on. You know this very well. This is straightforward what we've done. Now, interestingly enough, the UN Global Compact had an interesting, I think, very credible study last year, where they said, look, there's more than 3/4, more than 80% of the partnerships failed clear governance mechanisms. Who is in charge of what? Really important to build that in. So this is an area that shouldn't fall into the other category. So in order to get all this done, I appreciate, and I know my colleagues are with me on this one, I appreciate that there's a lot more to do. Many NGOs are built for grants. And that kept you busy. You have business development teams and fundraising teams that are built to attract donations, either unrestricted or restricted. And now we suddenly enter the world into blended finance. We need to partner with corporates, and that overwhelms the organization. So at MZN, since our mission is to build better NGOs, we are here to build not just consulting partners, but we've invested heavily into technology this year in order to build tools that our partners need to succeed in order to make some of the work easier and to concentrate where creative work is. So you'll find a battery of new AI-powered tools right now on our website, including agents you can subscribe to at next to nothing. Very cost efficient. I think most of them are even free of charge by now, or many of them at least. And we streamlined and we are inserting AI into our partnering process with NGOs as well, where partner mapping, foundation mapping, corporate partnership mapping is now done by AI. And Tony, I would love to hear from you. We didn't really rehearse this, but my impression is that what took 2 months to map out a donor mapping now takes half the time, right?
Yeah, you can do it in probably 4 to 6 hours.
I said 2 weeks. Come on, let's not over. I'm still okay. Yeah, but it's a significant increase, and the amount of donor mapping we used to do over the last 10 years kept us busy for weeks and weeks, right? Is genuinely taking half the time right now. Or Tony even says 80% less or 90% less. I'm not going to sign your statement. I still think if we get it done by half the time, that's pretty good. We also automized and brought a lot of AI into proposal and impact reporting, and that has saved so much time. So again, this releases the time that NGOs have, the staff time on there to focus on corporate partnerships, blended finance, and a new business model, really. We also, my colleague Nicole is now offering really good training courses on innovative finance and partnership design. So it goes much deeper than this. You can take them online as well. And that hopes is successful and that you can use those. I'm really pleased to say as well that since MZN is a social enterprise, our mission is to build better NGOs. We are actually reducing the prices on these right now, which of course we can. Yeah, so we're not just increasing our profit margin on the back of automation. So the outcome of all this work, if done correctly, is a transformation of the NGOs from donations to co-creation. So what I find, and this is a little bit more of an impression I have, there's no real study you can make, where the NGO manages to adopt a sort of business thinking without losing their mission. That's where things really could happen. At some point, they realize what we just sort of presented here, that the latter part of working with a corporate is exactly the same as working with a donor. The governance, the reporting, the joint admission, it's just the beginning part that is really, really different. So the result, if done right, is a very scalable funding, because corporate partnerships tend to be very sticky. Once a corporate committed to an NGO, it's not really something that they will let go of, because it would look really, really bad. A lot of shared accountability. I think that's new. NGO corporate partnership used to be something like, here's a few 100,000 donations. You do with it what you want. We are not really accountable for what you do with it. And right now, corporates are getting way more involved in their planning. I mean, I was surprised in a plan just earlier today, actually, one of our corporate partners wanted to know, the specific sites around the country you work in where the work is taking place, which is very rural. They said, can we map them out on Google Maps so we can calculate an investment by site? We're talking about hundreds of sites. So that's quite something to get involved into that level of detail, which is good. And of course, measurable impact. And I think that comes from this whole venture philanthropy and effective philanthropy movement, which is already 20 years ago. So that's the good news. I think that's pretty much the good news. Here are the agents which you can use. There's a link here. Jonathan, if you're listening, maybe we can send out the link as well. There are a number of agents on our site right now where you can map donors and foundations in minutes, as Tony Ann says. You can draft the concept notes and tailored outreach. So we've built these specific agents specifically for NGOs. They are not sort of ChatGPT glossed up. They're a little bit more less flashy and a little bit more useful, I hope. We've just launched version 2 and version 3 is launching. I don't know what the tech team said. I think something like next week. We're continuously launching new versions of it. And that should hopefully free you up on the traditional bidding side and open it up for you to do things like new. And that's it. That's it from us. There's a couple of announcements before we go to the Q&A. We talked a little bit about AI, and my colleague Cedric is talking about building a case for AI in your NGO. That's quite interesting to use. I'll look forward to that. And then we also have cases for power users. I'm not entirely certain what that is about. A few days later. We also have a few more training courses all around investment for NGOs and design to delivery. For example, a course on impact bonds that I will deliver, impact investing for NGOs that takes place in Berlin and London soon, and the proposal writing. That is a single day to dive into it. Hopefully you find that useful. And I think that's the end of the slides, which gets us over to the Q&A, at which point I can stop the slides and see if anybody asked any questions. So we're doing well, huh? Half an hour through this. This is bang on time. Here we go. Questions. Okay, nobody. I have a chat window. That's it. Okay, that's it. There are no questions. That's the easy one. We've never had that. Usually we have a ton. Okay, now some are coming. I'll pick them up from the chat, but please use the Q&A button if at all possible. Myla asks, it's not very clear to me how a partnership with NGOs can benefit a corporate business. Would you have some examples? Yes, I can give you some examples. Let me prepare these two things which I have prepared in anticipation of that example. So I'm taking two examples from the last sort of 3-4 months where I've been personally involved. One is a large pharmaceutical company partnership. Here, the pharmaceutical enterprise, I'm a little bit tied by confidentiality, so I need to keep it to the large pharmaceutical company based in Europe. Here, that pharmaceutical company really wants to strengthen the last mile access to really essential medicines in East Africa. And our role here, so Amgen's role, was to broker the relationship, to design a collaborative framework, and to ensure regulatory ethical alignment, as well as set up the monitoring. Their role was to fund it and to deliver the resources. So the corporate gave us a mix between donations and cash support on the one side and co-financing via grants on the other side. So they made unrestricted and restricted funding, and the NGO was responsible for achieving these outcomes that they've set in collaboration with the corporate. So that partnership really moved quickly from beyond donations. It really aligned that commercial capability. So they wanted to obviously deliver these medicines, but also sell those medicines with the public health need that was supported by local government in a sort of very structured, well-governed responsibility sharing. And that really has delivered already quite impressive results to these sites that I've just mentioned, actually, where they wanted to deliver medicine that hitherto was never available. So Mela, that hopefully is an example of how a corporate benefits from partnering with an NGO. I can give you a second example. I'll do this short. We had a large logistics organization, international freight forwarding company. We're talking about a business of several billions of turnover, and they wanted to overcome and help with humanitarian logistic challenges and the rising sort of emergency-driven response that in sub-Saharan Africa again. And instead of money, they gave in-kind logistics services, including air freight, plus an annual capacity strengthening support to support NGO logistics units. And the NGO in turn took this collaboration and aligned with their core on their core capability on their locations. They really shared how to govern this initiative. And it was built for very much the operational reality of medical and humanitarian NGOs, not just some statement of goodwill. They also achieved. They also directed the corporate as to where to put logistics capacity as crises were unfolding, even in conflict-affected areas like Sudan. So I hope that helped in terms of 2 examples. Yeah, I see a note. Thank you. I can give you 5,000 more. Just reach out and we'll do this. I'm sorry, do you have any other questions? I'm now torn between the chat window and the Q&A window. I find this a bit difficult.
Okay, so on the Q&A,
Yes.
there is a question asking if we can give an example of a co-branded initiative.
Yeah, Financial Inclusion Syria, for example. Sorry, there we go. That came out a bit fast. Syria is not the best banked country in the world, as you can imagine. A large financial, actually it was a consortium of a credit card company and 2 large banks kind of said, look, we need to make market entry pretty soon. And we want to do this in a more responsible way, because we realize that in the past only men were banked, or mostly men were banked in Syria. So we commit ourselves to 50-50, which was a pretty cool commitment to make. They said it's good for business, it's good for longevity, it's the right thing to do. It really helps us. We can't wait until it's completely peaceful and naturally happens. We need to make a market entry now, because if we wait, the competition may go there. It's a bit like a Coca-Cola Pepsi country. Either you're a Visa or you're a MasterCard country or you're an Amex country or something like this. So there's usually a pretty early market access. So that also goes to Maila's question. That was the benefit for the bank. They were generally motivated by gender equality, but also by a market entry. And then they did a huge marketing campaign about and opened remote businesses and asked locals to design online services specifically for and around Syria, involved very much the Syrian diaspora, which obviously involved, they needed some banking structures that were a little bit different. Alan, hopefully that gives you an idea. And if not, and if you want to know more details, let me know. I have already requested the organization to allow us to share more details and write a case study for this one, because it was a really cool project. Anything else?
There's quite a few questions kind of.
Oh, I thought we got away with it.
Like kind of asking about how to approach different corporations to ensure that one, they're able to keep their identity, their mission as NGOs, and then to not be kind of subverted to a consultant or unpaid staff in the dynamic.
That's a good question. Do you want to answer that, or shall I give it?
I can give it a try.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to answer the first part, as I mentioned in the slide talk, for lack of a better term, it's important to remember that you as an NGO, you already have things that a corporation does not have.
Yeah.
And once you recognize, because it starts with recognition, you have to recognize that you already have these assets, and these assets are invaluable and they can be leveraged for your own mission, for your own objective. That makes or gives you the confidence to approach different stakeholders, knowing what you offer, knowing what you're capable of, and to kind of negotiate based on that. I understand that there is some uneasiness with kind of shifting to the for-profit sector, but it's about understanding that you have to meet in the middle. So the for-profit company has an objective, you have an objective, you're going to meet in the middle, and you have to establish a level of confidence to navigate that partnership seamlessly. So if you approach the partnership thinking that, oh, I'm just going in this because I need money to do this, and not really banking on your assets, it's going to unfold to be an unequal partnership.
Totally.
You have to set the tone from the start. You have to have the confidence to know that you have amazing things to offer and take it from there.
And be very clear about what you want.
Yes.
And again, I repeat, but not just ask for a check.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's worthwhile saying, Tony, and I'm not sure, but I think it's worthwhile saying that most corporates, particularly in the ones we deal with, it's not like they are partnering with NGOs in order to increase their profit margin or to make more revenue.
No.
It's usually a much more evolved, much more area. They're not hiding the fact that they're interested in strengthening the supply chain. For example, we're just starting to work with a large industrial company in Europe. They have a real supply chain problem. They have a very complex supply chain, and working with people in their supply chain where they get the material from their various suppliers is a non-financial benefit to all, to the suppliers, to the people who work in the supply chain, and to the business and the customers.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand that in many of these arrangements with for-profit stakeholders, I think there is a kind of a worry that the focus would be on the company getting a profit, whereas they are more interested in meeting certain targets that are usually non-financial. And that's where the NGO comes in, because you already have the assets that I mentioned before, community experience, local trust, etc., etc. So you already have the assets. Don't think of it as they're trying to make money off of something. That's usually not the case. They have their own targets, you have your objectives, and you have to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Checking to see.
We got time for one more, right? I mean, we're supposed to finish this in 1 minute, but we can do one more, right?
Yes. So I'm trying to see.
But whilst you're trying to see one, there's one on the Q&A which I can answer whilst you pick up the next one, Tony, and let's divide and conquer. Someone anonymously asked if innovative financing is similar to blended financing, pooled funds, performance-based financing. Yes and no. So innovative finance is the overall term for all financing, which includes blended finance, which should certainly include donor advice or pooled funds, performance-related financing as well, but a ton more. Really a ton more. So it's the overarching term. And basically what they all have in common is that this is not just merely a tax-optimized transaction designed for profit maximization. They are all designed to make something investable that previously was not investable. And that's where I think one of the biggest innovation now lies since February, since Trump as well. And since the last 2 years, things really moved on. Areas where you didn't know that this is this is unreachable by the market. Nobody cares about this topic or this location or this kind of illness or this area is now becoming saying, well, yeah, not to that degree, but with adjusting the risk-reward mechanism through innovative methods, it becomes investable. And that obviously opens up private capital to many, but not all initiatives.
Okay, so I think a good final question would be this one that asks for suggestions for forums where connections can be made with different businesses, stakeholders who are in this innovative finance space. Conferences and the like.
So I don't want to promote our services, but if one starts out with sort of presenting to fora, etc., and to show looking at that, you're looking at a 10-year horizon, easily. There are certain relationship holders, advisors, accountants, lawyers mostly, who work with lots and lots of corporates, who see 5 corporates a day. But I would probably ask them, saying, who do you know would be interested to to partner with us. This is what we can deliver. But a much better way of engaging this one is to ask an advisor who's been doing this for several decades, saying, understand our NGO, understand our value proposition, and suggest to me 10, 20, 100 corporates whom we should approach. I think that's a better, you're gonna get a lot faster. That way, I think you get there in 4 to 6 months. If we are starting out listing conferences and hoping for a chance meeting, I mean, yeah, I've been doing this since 2011. And it's only starting to scale right since about 5 to 10 years now. So it took me a long time, just on a personal note. What do you think, Tony-Ann?
No, I agree. And you have to also take into consideration that everyone else is trying to meet with all these stakeholders. So you have to differentiate yourself in a certain way, and then leveraging relationships, taking advantage of resources that are available to you can speed things up.
Totally. Totally agreed. Good. I think Sharon asked one more question that just popped into my eyes. Sorry, we are switching time right now. What are the funding implications of connecting to these types of advisors? Sharon, many will work on a fee, simply. So the average financial fees for commercial advisors hover around, I'd say, 300 to 600 euros per hour. So we are talking about a couple of 3-4 grand a day. We are a social enterprise. We're obviously not even half that. We sometimes, well, we often actually charge what they charge by hour per day, which gives me a minority complex. Yeah, that's about that. In the US, there are a couple of commission-based organizations. I find this ethically interesting because you're immediately starting on the back end of one. And I find that most corporates want 100% of their financial contribution to go to the issue and not pay some promotional agent. So yeah, we've never done this. But yeah, that's about the financials involved. So if you're spending on a mapping, let's be real, Tony-Ann, help me out here, on a mapping of corporate donors or corporate partners that one could align with, not just financially, but in some joint solution, 2 months, 40K to get the knowledge done, 40 to 50,000.
Yep.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is about the line we do this. We obviously are, just so everybody knows, and Sharon, you may know this already, I recognize your name. We're obviously working within MZN to make most of our services subsidized. And for our small NGO services in certain countries, we're already heavily subsidized or even free of charge. So this will continue over the next few years. We've done this already for a number of years. Internally, there's a fund building up that allows us to do that. So eventually we bring those subsidized services more and more towards the larger mid-cap NGOs as well, but we're starting with those who really need it, the frontline ones. Cool. I think we should call it a day here. I've got another meeting in 5 minutes. Tony-Ann, thank you so much for joining me today. John, thank you very much for staying in the background, making sure it all works smoothly. There were a couple of graphical quirks on the slides, which we'll fix before sending it out. Thank you so much, everybody, for spending your time with us. Really, really appreciate it. I know it's a real transformational year. I keep saying this internally. I keep saying this externally as well. It's a really rough world and brutal world out there. Let's make sure that in our sector, we take care of each other and are kind to each other. And that, I think, makes a lot more brutal things more bearable. If we can help, please let us know. And until then, stay healthy and have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.